without any further ado, we're going to have Francie is now going to show us where we're going to be going tomorrow for those of you going on the tour. Those of you not going on the tour, she's going to explain to you what the tour people are going to see and what you missed, as Eric said. So I'm going to turn it over to Francie. So Francie Bird.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the Buffalo Trails in North Dakota. Okay, the first thing we're going to see is going to be John Lopez's fighting buffalo. These are full-sized, and he makes sculptures out of spare parts. So you'll see pieces of tractors and all kinds of things. When he made this, he selected sitting bull for the bull on the right, and you'll see his picture there, and on the bull on the left has Custer. And he picked them because they crossed paths near Lemon and on the North Grand River. Custer was there in 2 years before his demise, before he went to Montana, but he went to the Black Hills in 1874. And Sitting Bull brought his hunting party from, he was near Mobridge, of course on the west side of the river, and he brought them, and there were about 1,200 people he brought with him. And of course the Native Americans always brought the women too, because the women had their jobs to do in every buffalo hunt. I'm so glad you're here with us today, and I want to tell you that tomorrow we're going to get on the buses bright and early, 7:45, and that's Central Time. And guess what? When we get to the Great Sioux Reservation, we're going to be on Mountain Time. But don't go to Mountain Time when you get on the bus, because guess what? Those of us that live in the West, we can keep track of 2 time zones at once. How many of you live west of in the Mountain Time? Yeah, it gets confusing sometimes. So don't change your watches before you get on the bus, okay? Let's see now. Oh, and then we go to the Petrified Park. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, we're at the Shade Hill. I don't think these are the slides I was going to have, but that's okay. We had a little problem this morning, but Allison came through with all kinds of good slides. Our first stop then that's on our tour is going to be Shade Hill Buffalo Jump. And you can view this from the north side. Now there's a lake. There didn't used to be a lake, of course. And if you view it from the south side, it's 6, and if it's from the north side, it's 6B. And this sign is the South Dakota tour sign, and it shows buffalo jumping off the cliff. This was the most important. There are 3 parts to a buffalo jump. The bone pile at the bottom, and the second part is a steep cliff, and the most important part is up on the plateau above. And that's where the Native Americans really showed their skill and how well they knew the buffalo, because they understood the buffalo so well. And there are some secrets for the buffalo jump that we'll talk about when we get down there. So I just wanted to tell you that there used to be a layer of 12 20 feet, I think, of bones all across that cliff. And then there were some more bones underneath, like four more layers of dirt and then 4 more layers of bones. And guess where the bones are? During World War II, the people on the home front tried to give everything they could for the war effort, you know. And buffalo bones were made, they took the phosphorus out and made explosives. And so they shipped all those bones in most buffalo jumps, Canada and the United States both, they shipped them to the West Coast to their munitions factories. All the factories that used to make cars and trucks and tractors, they all made munitions. And they used a lot of buffalo bones for that. So this shows the Shade Hill Recreation Area on the north side, and on this side would be the jump. And that's also the place where, do you remember Hugh Glass? If you saw the movie The Revenant, this happened also at the base of this cliff. And when we get to the Kokomo, they're going to give us some brochures for Hugh Glass because they're going to celebrate that. And I think it's the 150-year celebration. I was going to say that, yeah, let's just wait a minute before we get to this. One time I was up on the top there of that plateau. I was looking for drive lines, and you recognize drive lines by a pile of rocks. And I found a couple, but that's all I found. And a couple of deer ran down below me, and they ran across just between me and the cliff. And I thought to myself, could I possibly, if I had 20 friends, could we chase them off the cliff? No way. It would not work. But the Native Americans knew the behavior of the buffalo so well, and they had secrets for what worked better. So we're going to talk about that when we get there. Okay, we'll go to the buffalo herd we're going to go to is the Johnson herd, and Jim Strand has been the herdsman of that for many, many years. And he knows just how to handle the buffalo. He's calm, but in control. Do we have a picture of the red dog buffalo, the baby buffaloes? No, maybe not. I'm really sorry. We got the wrong slides, but that's okay.
We'll look at them tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, okay. This is this is called Site 2 in your booklet, and we've made a historic site of that. It's right along Highway 12, which is a federal highway, and that's also the Yellowstone Trail, by the way. We have a teepee there, and we have two interesting things happened at this. This was a broad valley, and when the Native Americans came, remember the buffalo were all gone from North Dakota. For about 15 years, all the buffalo were gone because people were moving in so fast, and the buffalo left. But they came back in 1880, and then that's when we had them at the reservation. And so this whole valley was full of buffalo. 50,000 buffalo came back to the Great Sioux Reservation, and they were the most all the buffalo that were left, and they were here for 3 more years more than they were at most places. So this was a campground for thousands of years, and the Indians called that hidden wood because you couldn't see the trees on the cliff. Cliff was, you can see it over there on the left. And the Native Americans came from Fort Yates. 2,000 people came from Fort Yates, and they came up the Hiddenwood Creek. And the buffalo were on the level and up the hills on both sides. And remember, the buffalo are large, strong, unpredictable, and fast, and they can be dangerous. So you can admire them from afar, but don't approach. There's nothing like seeing a buffalo herd close up. We raise buffalo today on ranches, tribal herds, and public parks. About 400,000 buffalo is what we've got left. And I shouldn't say we've got left, that we have grown the buffalo to that many. It's a miraculous comeback for a species that was nearly exterminated. South Dakota is the state with the most buffalo. They have about 40,000. That's 10% of the total. And next is North Dakota and Montana and South Dakota. Montana, North Dakota, and Nebraska, and then South Dakota is more than we do. So at nearly the end, there were those 3 famous hunts. The first hunt was the Duprees, and they were a Native American family that came in 1880, the first hunt, and they hunted them at the Slim Buttes. And it was just a really cold winter, one of the coldest winters they had, and it snowed, had a blizzard every day, it seemed like. So they stayed there for 3 months. And I think during that time, they thought about the buffalo were going to be gone. Everyone knew the buffalo were going to be extinguished. And so I think that at that time, the Duprees thought about what they could do to help. And when spring came and there were lots of little cinnamon-colored calves, they took a wagon and rescued calves. And they took the calves home, and they were able to keep the calves alive, which was unusual. There's a lot of people that saved calves. They saved them, but they didn't have the good cholesterol milk. I don't mean cholesterol, I mean colostrum, yeah, because that has all the immunities in it. So different people get credit for saving the buffalo. The Duprees are one of the 5 family groups, and I always say it's a family group that saved the buffalo. It's not just one person. Their father was a French fur trader, and he gets a lot of credit, Fred Dupree, but he didn't even come on the hunt because he was an old man, and his sons were in their 40s and 50s, so I think they could make that decision themselves. And so I think it was their mother, and she was the one that invited the missionary Thomas Riggs to come with them. And that's why we have records of that hunt, is because he was along. And so the Duprees, there are 5 families that are noted for saving the buffalo. And you know, we hear a lot about President Roosevelt and William Hornaday and some of those Easterners who were helping to save the buffalo, and they were reserving space for them in refuges. But if you think about it, if it hadn't been for those people on the ground, those 5 families saving calves, the buffalo would be extinct. And so they took them home, and the Duprees increased their herd to 83, which was pretty good. The buffalo story itself it's a bittersweet tale. But at the same time, we can think of it as a heroic saga of these magnificent animals and the native people who so closely identified with them. And they continually honored and thanked the buffalo for taking care of them. As you heard this morning, they were very much a part of their culture and their spiritual life. Okay, let's go on to the next. We have signs there. The hunt leader was running antelope, and as I told you, it's not a very good picture of the buttes because there's some ridges here and on both sides, but there is that flat green valley. And running out antelope, and some of the leaders went up on a hill. They came from the east, and running antelope sat on his horse up at the top of the hill, out of sight from all these buffalo, and they'd sent people around on all the hills to circle around, and when he gave the signal with his arm, everybody rushed at the buffalo, and they were all ready to go. The horses felt the excitement and lifted their heads and snorted and pranced and reared, and the hunters swooped down at full speed, dashing among the buffalo as they attacked from the hills on both sides of Hiddenwood Creek. Rifles cracked and the buffalo fell. Some began to run. The riders with fast horses raced around, got in ahead, and turned the leaders back and dropped them with a bullet or two. Others turned back in confusion. And the buffalo charged with furious thrusts and slashes of their massive horns and heads. Each hunter rode alongside a buffalo, shooting it with the heart or the lungs. And usually the animal fell with one shot. And there were some accidents that day. One man died of a heart attack. Another lay unconscious. His horse had fallen with him. One bloody hunter lost 3 fingers, blown off when his gun exploded. One man's leg was slashed and bleeding. He was from knee to his ankle. And despite these accidents, it was a successful day. Although without rest, the hunters kept up the slaughter until they lost their horses or were exhausted. They killed 2,000 buffalo that first day. And on the second day, they stopped and partially butchered and cared for the meat. And everybody knew their tasks. The women knew their jobs, and the men knew their jobs. Men skinned and quartered the animals, and the women began the huge task of slicing chunks of meat into thin sheets, and they hung them on the willow racks to dry in the sun. And when cured, they would make pemmican and jerky. And that evening they feasted. They had dancing and singing, and great orators were with their storytellers. There were famous people there: Gall, John Grass, Crow King, Rain in the Face, and Spotted Horn Bull. And on the third day they ran buffalo again, and that day they got 3,000. So altogether they had killed 5,000 buffalo, and 4 men had killed 26 buffalo each. And then they made camp and stayed a couple of weeks there to dry them. Let's see if we've got a place. Oh dear, we don't have a place of the last stand. Let's go back to the one that we've got. Gee, I'm sorry. We have some beautiful slides, but
Well, they'll see it tomorrow.
they'll see it tomorrow. Yeah.
They'll see it tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would go to the last slide.
Okay. So then we will eat. We're going to go to the last hunt, which is where Sitting Bull came with his men, and they killed the last buffalo, the last wild buffalo, on October 12th and 13th. And they killed about 1,200 buffalo, and that was the last of the great wild herds. So then we'll go to the Hettinger Museum. It's called the Dakota Buttes Museum, and there is our full body mount, which we call Prairie Thunder. And, okay. So I think we just need to acknowledge that the Indians, the Native Americans honored the buffalo as sacred in ceremony, artwork, song, and dance. And storytelling was an art. It was a way to pass down tribal history, to teach young people traditional values, or simply have fun and entertain. So, that's, yeah, that's all. So don't forget, you can often arrange a visit, especially you teachers, to tribal herds in your area and other buffalo herds in your own communities. So if you want to take some tours, just ask. And we invite you to visit all these 10 authentic sites in our Buffalo Tales tour and explore the historic places where the last great hunts took place and where live buffalo are now restored on ranches, parks, and tribal herds. Okay, thank you.